All right, so I like saving money and I know you like saving money. So how do we maximize our dollar when we're going to pick up something like this Glock 17 right here? Now that specific one right there was a law enforcement trade-in that I found locally and it was pretty cheap, 270 bucks. And no, I don't know where to get any more. And that was several months ago. So they are all gone and have been for some time. And we know there's budget options out there and I love to see more affordable things for people. But one of the ways to maximize what you can get is to go to that used market or that trade-in market. But there are things you need to look for because some of them may not have been maintained well, or maybe they were just really used a lot and it might not be the best buy for you. So we're gonna take a good solid look at this and talk about what to look for if you are in the market for buying a used Glock. Before we get into that though, I'd love to give a huge shout out to Hidden Hybrid Holsters. They are a channel sponsor here and have been for a very long time. Now they make everything from holsters for your Glock to that sweet 1911 that needs that leather backed love on it. And they do the hybrid thing. So the front end of that, as you can see right there, is Kydex. And then the back side is a sweet suede for that supple skinny ears when you are carrying this in the appendix style. So go over, give them some love. Huge shout out to them, Hidden Hybrid Holsters. I will leave a link down below for you guys. All right, so before we get into what to look for, let's see how this thing performed out on the range. All right, so let's check out this bone stock 17 trade-in right here. So when we get these things in our hand, if we're thinking about buying them, we just want to do a quick external look at these things. Is the frame broken? Are there chunks missing? Things like that. That's going to give you an idea of kind of how harshly this thing was treated. The first thing after just a quick visual I'm going to check is to ensure that the trigger shoe safety works and that the striker block safety has not been desactivated. People do that stuff, right? So we can see the trigger is operational and functional. Then I'm gonna test the brake and the reset. Okay, that is your basic functions check to make sure that nothing is weird in that trigger and then it hasn't been messed with at all. And it should feel fairly heavy, 5-ish pounds maybe. And then I'm gonna start looking at some of the finer details. So on this one, you can see the grip is very shiny because it's been handled a lot. So it's practically polished in some places because it has been used so much. Just make sure there's no really weird things going on there. And you're gonna start seeing that coating wear. Very normal for something that's been used in a work capacity. You can see up on the nose right there, it's really bad. It's got some like nicks in it and stuff well. So this thing has been used quite a bit, but you can definitely see lots of slide wear up on the front end, across the barrel hood, across the top right there. Anytime you see those kind of 3 square marks right there, that's how you know this was carried in a Safariland ALS style holster, because that's how those holsters wear on that. Again, you can see right there, it's really good wear on that. And then talking about the sights here, these are the Trijicon high def sights on there, and they're dead. And the night sights in there, they've lived their life. They get about 7 to 10 years of use, which kind of gives you a good idea of probably how old this is, being that those sights are barely viewable. So this is at least a 10-year-old gun, I would say. Other than that, we're gonna start to want to look inside of this thing. So we're gonna do our standard breakdown on it. And one of the first things I'm gonna go for is the frame, right? I wanna see how this frame is holding up. Now, there's gonna be a couple of different areas I'm gonna pay really close attention to, and those are going to be the rails in the rear right here, the locking block, and the rails in the front. So you can see, I know it's tough to see on camera, there is some pretty harsh wearing towards the sides, the outer edges of those rails. I'll try to get you the best light on there I can. You can probably see it right there where it's a little extra shiny. Now that's just not only polishing that does happen on those rails, but they're actually worn down. you know, quite a bit on the side. So this thing had a lot of cycles through it. One of the other things you can see too is up in there, you'll see that trigger block pin right there. You see the shiny spots on it right there at the tip of the tool. That's actually from the slide lock right there, the slide release. So it's been activated so many times that it's worn that pin completely of its coating. So you know this thing has seen some love. Locking block, it's gonna have your typical wear kind of in this area right here. I know it's tough to make out, but it's gonna be a little bit more towards the front. And then in this area right here where the barrel actually locks up. One of the biggest things you can tell if it's got a lot of trigger pulls on it is you'll see the block right here in the rear where this is your drop safe ledge. And you can see on this one, I know it's tough again to make out, there are some chunks missing out of that, especially towards the rear. That happens over time when that trigger bar just keeps grinding into it on its way down. None of these are catastrophic failures. It just lets you know that this thing, it's gotten some love, it's been used. But these parts in here from law enforcement trade-ins generally have been changed, you know, once or twice in their lifetime. You're gonna check to make sure you've got spring tension, you know, that's gonna be good right there on your slide stop slide release. Make sure you got really positive tension on your magazine release here. And then just check that trigger and see how smoothly it kind of resets up in there and goes down. Should have a nice positive click right here. You can hear that click, but it should be smooth, right? You shouldn't feel drag, none of that stuff. So that's one of the things you want to check too, because if people have messed around in there, you know, it can cause some problems. So I'm actually going to punch only this one pin out here because I just want to show you, give you an idea. Okay, you can see that pin is polished. It has been taken in and out so many times. So that's just another thing to keep an eye out for. And that's not an aftermarket pin. That is a Glock factory pin. So pretty crazy. I'll put that back together later. Talking about the slide right here. Barrels are all gonna have that kind of smiley face wear on them right there across the hood on the top. What you're gonna look for in here is just to make sure the feed ramps aren't all busted up or gouged up or anything in here. This one's a little bit dirty, but that's what a barrel is going to look like. And then in the corners right there, you can see that kind of shiny spot towards the front in the corner. You're going to get that stuff. So typical barrel wear there. Take your guide rod and just very lightly like that. Make sure it's not fractured, cracked, crunching, broke, anything like that. Once we get up into that slide, you'll see some pretty good wear from the barrel hood. Typical, very, very typical. You'll see some pretty decent wear up on the guide rod right here where the guide rod fits in, and that's just from that wearing on the inside of the frame right there. That's literally what causes that mark right across there. Another good place to look up in here is you can see the wear that's going to come in kind of right there. All coating wear, nothing bad going on here. These areas right here, okay, that's where you're seeing that locking block smash. That's pretty good. That lets me know this gun's probably got in the range of, I would say, at least 6,000 to 7,000 rounds easily. I've got ones with more rounds than that, and I don't have that bad a wear from where the locking block contacts it. Just one of those things to look for. Other than that, you're just going to check to make sure you don't have any gouges, metal chunks missing, anything like that. And then we're going to want to check our striker block safety right there. So make sure that when you pull that striker back, okay, and let it go, that striker's not coming through the breech face right here. And then depress it right downward like that. You can do that with a pen, and then just make sure that the striker does just nicely go through and then very easily glides back out and locks in place. That's pretty much going to tell you that the springs in there are still functional. You can replace them. All that stuff is pretty cheap. But those are the major things you're going to be looking for, at least that I look for when it comes to buying a factory used setup, because generally they're going to be in very serviceable condition. Let's go ahead and talk about how this thing ran. Were there any other issues with it? And I guess what my plans are with it. All right, so there was some pretty good wear on that, but nothing was really catastrophic or bad. Now you can tell some parts have been changed in there. There was some pretty good wear on that locking block pin, pretty good wear on the rails, pretty good wear up in the locking block where it contacts the slide. All of that stuff is to be expected, especially on a Gen 3 that's probably been in service for that like 7 to 10 year range. Now asking around, My understanding is that's how larger agencies kind of time out stuff. Either it's got a lot of rounds on it or about 7 to 10 years, and they will kind of cycle those out. Not always the case though, because agencies are moving into the MOS systems, specifically in the Gen 5 now going forward. So that means a lot of agencies and even private security entities are getting rid of Gen 3, Gen 4, even non-MOS Gen 5s. So there are a lot of good deals out there to be had. It's just a matter of being able to find them before they're all gone, because they sell out fast. Now, if you're looking at getting into a Glock like this Gen 3 17 right here, and you just don't have the budget to go all in on a brand new one, this is a good way to go. You just need to look for those things we talked about here. And maybe even if it's like a rental from a range, get out there and actually use it. Spend the 10 or 15 bucks to rent it to see if it's gonna be a runner. And sometimes stores that have indoor ranges will actually let you try a pistol that's there for sale out before you buy it, which is pretty cool. Some do, some don't. But keep an eye out for those things. And then sometimes I've seen these things used where the person just never used them and there was still the copper factory stuff on the connector and all that. If that lube is on there and the thing looks pristine, the owner probably never really used it much. Definitely grab those ones, because they're probably gonna be runners right out of the box with zero issues. Now, as far as this specific one, being that you can see it's been well loved is what we'll say, but it's got some time on it. She's old, she's tired. What are my plans with this thing? So most people are gonna buy this and probably just leave it the way it is unless they bought it specifically to build it. I kind of bought it, one, to kind of show you guys what you could get on an LE trade-in, show you what to look for, but also I think I'm gonna do some stuff with this. I haven't quite decided on everything. I'm thinking definitely on the grip work and stuff. I wanted to use DEFCON 3. Julius over there does outstanding stuff. I've been kind of jonesing to get a slide or a frame done by him for quite some time now. As far as the slide, I think I'm gonna go back to an old faithful, maybe Boogeyman Customs. They do some really sweet stuff out there, and some of their new designs have caught my eye for sure. So gonna be reaching out to both of them. Other than that, I just don't know if I'm gonna go really crazy with it, or if I just want something kind of sleek. You know, I don't want to do crazy colors or anything, but I'm still thinking. So let me know what you think down in the comments on which direction I should go with this tired old Gen 3 17 trade-in. All right, well, that is what I've got for you all today. Make sure you guys get subbed up, get belled up. If you like what's going on here, smash that like button for me, and definitely leave me a comment on, would you even consider a trade-in block or a trade-in anything else? I've done pretty good buying used stuff over the years. Never had any problem with it, so it's a good find for me when I can find something that I'm looking for that's in good shape. You guys get out there and have some fun on the range. I'll leave all the links for other videos and Glock stuff down below if you want to check those out. Get out there on the range, have some fun. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.